And we could have a stare down. You guys ready?
Yes.
You guys ready? Okay. You ready?
Yes.
Okay. And you guys sure are quiet. Good evening, and welcome to this regular and joint meeting of the Helotes City Council. Tonight, we're going to be having a joint meeting with our EDC. And before we get started, I would like to ask everyone, if you have a cell phone or other electronic communication device, please turn your equipment to off, vibrate, or silent. And I didn't give the start time, did I, Grace? I don't think I did. Anyway, it's October 22nd, 2015 at 7 p.m. I'm just so excited that we're all here together, I guess. But anyway, also texting, if you feel a need to text, if you would, just go into the hallway or outside. It helps, and also talking to the people who are next to you. If you have conversations you have to have, please step outside. It just is disruptive to the meeting. We'll start tonight with our invocation, and Councilmember Massey is going to handle that for us, and then we'll have the Pledge of Allegiance to the United States and the Texas flag. So if you would please stand for the invocation and pledges.
Dear Lord, we ask for your continued blessings on our city staff, volunteers, and elected officials. We ask for wisdom as we listen to tonight's presentation and as we deliberate during tonight's meeting. Help us to make the right decisions for our community with courtesy and consideration. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Honor
the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Okay, at this time, we'll essentially adjourn the council meeting. Oh, yes. I take that back. We're going to do a proclamation. And this is to our municipal court. So, Andrea, if you would come up and join me up front. Andrea is our municipal court clerk. She heads up the court and is doing an excellent job. She just moved into that position, 2 months ago? Since May? That was close. But she's doing an excellent job, and there are a lot of improvements being made in municipal court, and we appreciate her efforts as well as her fellow court clerk, Karen Coe. Anyway, this reads Proclamation, Municipal Court Week, November 2nd through 6th, 2015. Whereas the City of Helotes Municipal Court, one of 917 municipal courts in Texas, was established on May 27th, 1982, and serves as the local justice center for the enforcement of local ordinances and fine-only state offenses that protect the peace and dignity of our community. And whereas municipal courts have more personal contact with people than all other Texas courts combined, and public impression of the entire Texas judicial system is largely dependent upon the public's experience in municipal courts. You've had that experience, right? Many occasions. Whereas municipal judges, clerks, and court support personnel have pledged to be ever mindful of their neutrality and impartiality, rendering equal service to all, and continually strive to improve the administration of justice through participation in judicial education programs, seminars, and workshops. Now, therefore, I, Thomas A. Schoolcraft, on behalf of the members of City Council, and by the virtue of the authority vested in me as mayor of the city of Helotes, Texas, do hereby proclaim the week of November 2nd through 6th as Municipal Court Week, and recognize and commend our municipal judges, our court clerks, bailiffs, and other court support personnel for the exemplary service they perform. In witness whereof, I have hereunto set my hand and caused this seal to be affixed.
Thank you.
Okay, now we're going to go into the joint meeting. And before we do that, I would like to just introduce our Economic Development Corporation members, mainly because we have two that are brand new, two that are relatively new, and then we have two here that are old timers, been with us a long time. So starting over here, Carl, if you would stand up, please. This is Carl Hale. He was just appointed a few months ago. Carl, we appreciate you being on our Economic Development Corporation. Kathy Oliver out of Cedar Springs. Carl is out of Iron Horse Canyon. This is Kathy Oliver, a longtime resident of Helotes. Kathy, we're so glad to have you. Drew Helms, Vice President of the corporation, and he'll be acting as the facilitator tonight. Thank you, Drew. Keith Muhlstein, another old timer. Good to have you, Keith. And we have Kathy Mitchell, brand new member. Just was sworn in, when was that?
Last night.
Last night, yeah. And so this is her second meeting. We have another new member, Diane Anderson, and she texted me earlier, and she's went home from work sick, so she couldn't make it tonight. And then we have another old timer, Pat Wooten, who evidently was unable to make it tonight too. So EDC, we appreciate having you here. And what we're going to be doing is discussing the Linear Park project. So we'll essentially adjourn out of the council meeting, and I'll turn it over to you, Drew, if you want to call your meeting to order. You have a quorum, so go ahead and call your meeting to order, and then we'll go on.
Yeah, the meeting of the EDC is now called to order.
Just a second. Rick, would you get him the microphone, please? Sorry. Just a second, Drew, so we can hear you.
The meeting of the EDC meeting is called to order at 7:07. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, our joint meeting is a presentation on the Linear Park project by Terra Design. And so if you guys want to step up and start your presentation, I guess just speak from the podium. You have a mic? Okay.
I think it's working.
Okay. Very good.
I'm Walter Hurd with Terra Design Group, and I've got with me Kristen Carroll and Mark Zack. He's my business partner in Terra Design. And we've been working on this project for several months now. It's a as you probably know, it's a PEX project. also there's some work that's gonna be done at Scenic Loop Road where it crosses the highway to make pedestrian access a little bit better there. And if you're not familiar with the site, which I'm assuming everybody here is probably pretty familiar with the Rose Creek, but our project is starting at Our Lady of Guadalupe, and running down the creek, and ending basically at Bandera Road, although the pedestrian bridge is located at Bandera that connects pedestrians back into Old Town Roads. And then, of course, the trail connects into the sidewalk, so it actually makes a pretty big loop all the way around. Wish this was a little bit brighter. Has everybody walked down in the creek? If you have, hold up your hand. I'd just like to know. I know some of the city council members. Okay, you know that creek has its own scale. And Kristen, stand up a minute. Right here is Kristen. You can barely see her, but that's about her right there. And she's not a short person. She's a tall lady. But the size of these rocks, we found it fascinating. We do lots of trails in Bexar County and San Antonio, and really all throughout the state. But these rocks that have been moved around down that channel are really big, and there's some that are 10 times as big as this that we found. It's really a beautiful place. It's very pristine and very beautiful, and what a wonderful place for trail. This doesn't do it justice. That's about 10 feet tall right there. It was just amazing. Our plan that we've come up with, like, as I said, it begins at the church. We're proposing adding a parking lot and a trail head there. The trail then goes as quickly as we can down in the creek, runs on the south side of the creek. And what you see, to this trailhead, one is a node, and that's a rest area along the trail where you can sit. There's a picnic table there. There's some other amenities. We have a low water crossing where we cross the creek at this point and head down to the south side. And there's more nodes along the trail. And I didn't really mention here, this is Riggs Road and Our Lady of Guadalupe Church. As you come up then, we have another node here, and it's a larger node. We're dividing the project at this point. This would be our base bid going back to Our Lady of Guadalupe Church. This will be an alternate bid connect up with Old Bandera Road. We're still looking at cost. We're going to try to get that to work, but we're breaking it up so we can bid it in two pieces basically. And this becomes a turnaround if we can't do that. This is 3/4 of a mile back this way, and this is about 1/4 of a mile this way. So the whole trail length is about a mile, not including the bridge, which is right here. This is what the Country Trail will look like when it's finished. This is a very similar project in San Antonio that we did along Leon Creek, which there's two big creeks in San Antonio, Salado and Leon. Salado is like the Mississippi River. Leon's like the Colorado. You've got the Colorado River when it's wet and rainy. This particular trail piece right here probably goes 30 feet underwater, high velocity flows. And as you notice, we wind the trail around trees. We try to keep all the trees we can. We're at a point now where L&D Engineering, Byron, who's here with L&D, they've already done a tree survey, so our trail design accommodates as many trees as we can to leave them. And where we have to take a tree out, we try to select the lesser species and the smaller trees. It'd be impossible to do it not take any. So, this is the trailhead at Our Lady of Guadalupe, and it's got shade structure and wayfinding and interpretive signs. We've got about 43 cars so we can park in, and we connect back up to the drive. The trailheads, as we do them, are usually they'll use them for as staging points for walks when they're fundraising walks. And if you want to meet a friend, you meet them there, and there's a shady place to sit. There's a picnic table underneath the shade structure. And this is similar to what we're showing. This is one in San Antonio at Stone Park. But it's a very simple shade structure. Everything that we do that's in this trail system is very heavily constructed. We don't want anything to be damaged when there's a flood. So when you see stone pieces like this, it's stone on the outside, they're all concrete filled on the inside, and they're very durable. We've had a lot of experience over here working in floodplains and very fast waters, and we've developed some ways to do amenities and stuff. This is a similar project at Panther Springs Park in San Antonio. I just want to show this lit up at night. We always light our trailheads. And this has a parking lot very similar to what the one is that we're proposing. Along the trail and at the beginning of the trail, at the trailhead, we will have monument signs, some type of signs so you can easily find the trailhead, you know what it is. It would be logoed, the city logo. We always like to name our trails, and that's become handy because, especially as your system grows, you have trails that have different names, and people can identify with those, and that can be a guiding point along the trail. There's mandatory signage that goes on the trails. We do quarter-mile markers, but they also act as wayfinding signs that tell you, ahead is this facility, to the right is this one, but they also provide a very important aspect in a floodplain, and that is how do you get out of the flash flood, which can occur on these creekways. We usually add a GPS marker on top, so if there is an emergency, you can call EMS and give them the coordinate, and then right where you are on the trail, they can come right to you. One of the trail notes that I mentioned, this is a bit of an enlargement of that. Picnic table. On this particular project, they'd be cut into the slope slightly, and we have a seating wall, picnic table, some type of trash receptacle, and then we like to do interpretive signs along the trails. And they can be nature or historic. If you've ever been to Bernie, you may have been on River Road Park and down the trail system there. And we told the whole story of the city down the trails. They called it the Tale of the City, and talked about all the historic things that happened there. And from what I've heard, there's a plethora of information on the Helotes that we could tell on this trail. We have the opportunity on each one of these notes to do that. But they become places, as you can see right here, this is a picture I took on a trail up in Ohio that we did. And we used rock for seeding there and to berm up as we cut into slope. And I caught this picture of a mother and her daughter, and they were painted. But they had this nice spot just out in the woods that they could go to, and it's really nice to have those, especially in a beautiful area that you have in Helotes Creek. These are some of the signs that we've done on, this is Stone Oak Park in San Antonio, and it's a nature park. And so as we were designing the trail, every species that we saw as we were out there marking trail off, we put on the interpretive signs. And this is actually a real thing right here. They eat mice. They're centipedes. They're really big. They didn't know they existed.
Yes, I know.
So, this is a typical map, a wayfinding map. It tells you all the features along the trail. This one happened to have 2 schools on it, and those schools actually, the nodes that I showed, the schools are actually take their classes out. They'll take like all the 5th grade classes out, and they'll rotate node to node with different teachers and teach all their classes out on the trail. And you have a perfect opportunity for that with your elementary school right there. The pedestrian bridge that I spoke of is at Old Bandera, and this is the center line of the creek right here. We're going to have to do a switchback to come up on this side, and then we're going to connect back to the sidewalk this way. And then this bridge is about 170 feet, and we plan on doing it in 3 pieces. So there'll be some piers that line up with the existing piers under this bridge. And then at this point, we're adding another trailhead. As you would enter from Old Town, you'd have a trailhead that would welcome you, and then this takes you right into the trail system. Similar kind of bridge. This one has more trees than yours has, but this is a bridge that's not a straight bridge. It zigzags. It actually makes a Z shape. This is one on the creek in San Antonio, a 100-foot bridge. And this week we're setting 3 bridges in San Antonio over the next 10 days. One of them is 175 feet, one of them is 150 feet, one of them is 200 feet. All single span bridges. We've been out watching cranes working. It's been a real interesting week. And then the final item is the pedestrian crossing at Scenic Loop Road. And what we're proposing is to develop a refuge island out in the roadway, similar to what you see here, where as you cross, you'll have a place to stop, and you can make, one crossing on one light change, and the next crossing on the next light change if you need to. And there's also signals just similar to what you would see here to try to make that connection across and over to future development on this side. And that wraps up my presentation. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to, and so will Mark and Krista, answer anything that you might have.
I have one.
Yes, sir.
Is the width basically the same from the start to the finish?
It's 10 feet from the start to the finish. The only time we narrow the finish, we can go down to 8 feet on that.
And bicycles will be on the trail down it?
Yes. All the curbs are very gentle, so.
Right.
Thanks, Walt. The purpose of this is, of course, discussion and comments mainly. Each of the EDC board members received at least an electronic copy of the plans, as did the council members. So as far as comments, do any of you have any comments pertaining to any specific parts of the plans or with the presentation that you just heard?
We come up with a few, go ahead, Carl.
I just had a question on the phase 1 and phase 2. I want to be clear as to why there's the 2 phases. Is it strictly economic, budgetary?
Phase 1 and Phase 2.
Yes,
That's
early on.
Rick will handle that.
Yeah, we're not looking at it in a phase perspective. We're trying to do the whole project
Yeah.
within the $1.36 million grant that we received. But we have broken it up in 2 phases and included one as an additive alternate just in case we come over budget on phase 1 and need to utilize more EDC money or more city money to finish that project. So, yes, they should. The alternate, if you would, Walter, go back to the phased slide that you have, please. So right there, you see at the top, there's a node, if you will, between 3 and 1 at the top. That's going to be the additive alternate going back towards the actual bridge.
Anybody else?
Yes. The main thing we come up with is we want to protect the grant. We want to be sure that we stay within the limits, we start the project on time, we stay on schedule, and hopefully it'll be right on the money line. If it's not, if it's below, that's great. If it's above, that's a different problem. That's the one thing we are concerned about. We'd surely like to get that finished because it's federal, and we know how they are about things to be done exactly as planned. And of course, we're talking about going all the way to Riggs Road and then, on the other end from the church. And that's probably a great idea if there's money available or if there's things. And that's what we were talking about when we say a 2-step or 2-phase project. That's exactly what we're speaking of.
This design has to be completed by May of 2016 and submitted to TxDOT. Otherwise, we run the risk of going outside the timeframe that was established by the MPO.
And so we're at 30% design now, based on City Snyder, Director Snyder, they continue to finish the design phase, and then go out for.
Well, there's a critical step before we do the design, before we go on past the 30%, and that's the easements that are required. We don't own all the land that we have here. So we will be having a meeting with the affected property owners on November 2nd. Tara will be doing a presentation to them, and then we will go into the negotiation phase with those affected landowners. Most of the easements are clips of the land, and a lot of them are at the base of, one in particular is at the base of a very large cliff. So
Most of them are 10, 20 yards long.
Walter, are we looking at 30 foot in a lot of locations, 20 to 30 foot, and some of them clip corners of properties. So we're not talking about a massive amount of easement here. The one location, Walter, can I have the one location where we are talking about, can you pinpoint Webster's property, please? That goes, and this is another reason I think we're including this as an additive alternate. That portion right there is, because of design considerations, they have placed that trail on a large portion of a person's lot, okay? So I foresee some issues with that potential easement there. But for the majority of easements that we're talking about, from number 3 at the top to Old Bandera Road, they're relatively small pieces of property.
On that one piece of property you spoke of, is there a house much further up on one of the roads, Riggs, or somewhere else?
That house is accessed through the back end of the country club. So the house is close to the creek in that location. I believe it's on 2 separate lots, but the lot in front that we would be affecting is essentially an open field. But there is a house on an adjacent lot, and that property owner owns both of those lots.
Are we talking about that house we see there just above the fort?
Have that, please. This is the country club. This is Tammy Jo Kruger Poynton's home, or one of her properties here. She owns both of these properties now. And then Webster's property is his house is in this general location here. So this property right here is Jason Webster's property, and so we will be meeting with him to see what we can do to acquire that easement. So to go back to my thing, we're meeting with them on November 2nd. We're not going to have individual discussions with property owners about negotiations at that time, but we'll schedule over the following week individual discussions with them. And so by mid-November, we should have a very good idea of if this alignment is viable or if we need to tweak it to accommodate what property owners do or do not wish to do in the way of easements.
And that tract is on page 15 of the plans, if you want to go back and look at it, see how it's situated. Anything else from EDC members? Nothing? Okay, we'll start with council. Cynthia, you want to start out? Do you have any comments?
I did have a couple of comments. If that second phase is, if there's a problem with it, do we still do the pedestrian bridge? The pedestrian, even if there's not going to be a trail to it?
Yes, pedestrian
Yeah.
bridge is integral to the project, so that does need to be completed.
Okay. And then the lines on Scenic Loop Road, was that on top? You were talking about that last?
No, that is, can you flip to that? Oh, I have it, sorry. This is another integral part of the grant submittal that we submitted to TxDOT and was approved through the MPO. Essentially, this is not a bridge over the road. These are paint lines on the actual roadway itself. We're installing pedestrian crosswalk signage, the hands and the countdowns that basically say you can or cannot cross the road at that particular time.
Oh, I understand all that. I was just trying to visualize, this is across Bandera Road?
Yes, it is across Bandera Road.
Okay, that's what I was
So
trying
this
to-
is the entrance to Scenic Loop right here. Excuse me, this is the entrance to Old Town on Scenic Loop. These are the two monument signs that we have, and that's Scenic Loop going towards Gray Forest there.
So my question then was, I guess it's a funding thing. We had originally, the original thought was to go underneath the pedestrian bridge, underneath the road. And we can't do that because of funds, is that right? Because you can access the scenic loop, the old scenic loop road along the creek. So is that another phase sometime in the future?
That would be another phase in the future. I mean, we're already, the cost estimates, again, the grant is for 1.4 million. And the cost estimates are over by a couple $100,000 already. Now, those are preliminary cost estimates, so as we know, when we see these projects, they tend to give us, they overestimate and then they dwindle down as we get through the construction set. But we would not be able to fit that within this budget, this grant that we have received.
Okay, and I have one other question. I did walk the creek, and there was some, further on down, close to where it starts to turn, there's huge rocks, like you were talking about, beautiful, and it looked like, there was like a cave underneath one of the rocks. You know what I'm talking about?
I know exactly.
Yeah, that's a beautiful area, but is the part, or the trail gonna go to the right side of that, or to the left side of that?
To the left.
Really?
Yeah, we think we can get through there.
Huh.
So everybody, if you haven't seen it, this rock is probably as long as this room is wide and 10 or 12 feet tall.
Yeah, it's an
Single rock.
ancient rock. Yeah, it's really cool. But I was just, because I remember trying to, I don't think, ended up walking on the side toward the creek because there didn't seem to be a way. Are y'all gonna be moving rocks you're gonna have to be moving things, right?
Something like that, you can build, there's ways that you can do that. That's a real special place in the trail. That would be a very special place in the trail.
Right, yeah. Okay, other than that, I'm just, you don't understand how excited I am. 9 years ago when I got on the EDC, this was the reason, because of the linear park. I'm just so excited about this. I hope that we can do the whole thing, and I hope we can work out the funds to do the entire thing. And, but anyway, I like what you've done. Go ahead.
Ed?
Are those two points, one closest to Lady Guadalupe and then the one up here by Country Club, are those just the only 2 points where you have pavilions to meet your kind of view from here? Yeah. So there'll be others along the route? No, just those two. Just those two. Most of those other nodes, they're in trees and they're pretty much shaded all that. Thank you.
Paul?
Is the parking lot next to Our Lady of Guadalupe, is this included? Is that city property? Whose property is that, or will that have to be acquired?
No, that would need to be acquired through an easement, and that is owned by the Archdiocese. And Father Davalos, who runs that church but still has to run it past the Archdiocese, is pleased at this point with the plan that we have presented to him. So we feel at the staff level much better about acquiring that easement than we do at this point with getting all the way to the pedestrian bridge. Just because we're going through significant portions of people's properties at that location, and we're not building an amenity, if you will, that will entice them to provide that easement. Now again, we haven't met with these people, so I don't know if they will like it or not. But one of the key components of the church being on board with this at this point is the parking lot itself, because they've been trying to create that land into a parking lot for some time.
Okay, and then how is police department going to patrol this area, access this area, and/or I guess the fire department to get down in there? Has that been discussed with fire department and police department?
That has been discussed. we are actually, the fire department has access to a gator, so they can get down there with a gator if they needed to. This is being built in AASHTO standards, so essentially, the entire trail has to be ADA compliant. So there aren't any large faces that people are gonna have to walk over. It's not a native trail, if you will. I mean, it's concrete the entire way. So I imagine that in the future, we will want to invest in some additional gators, or ATVs, for the police department, because I'm not aware that they currently have one. So I would imagine access would occur in that manner. They're not gonna be able to drive down onto the trail, although it is 10 foot wide, so that technically they could drive down into the trail if they wanted to. But if you're talking about just routine sort of oversight of the trail, they could either walk it, they could bicycle it, or they could use an ATV. I would imagine, actually, bicycling might be a good idea for some of them.
Wow. And I guess our city staff will keep it maintained and empty.
Yes, we would add this to our rotation schedule, either in the Public Works Department themselves, or we would add it to the Maldonado contract that we currently have to maintain it. But most of it's supposed to be natural anyway, and so we're talking about trash pickup, and so I would imagine our guys would handle that themselves.
Okay. Thank you. That's all I have.
Yeah, we had looked at all of these factors as we were initially talking about it, and realized it would go into our Parks and Rec part of the budget. And yeah, bicycles, we've used bicycles with the PD before, so that's on our list of things to be looking at. Get it?
That's it for now.
Alex?
Yes, thank you. A lot of great questions that I was going to ask, but have already been asked, so I won't repeat myself or them. I did want to ask with regard to the construction of the 10-foot sidewalk, given the fact that a lot of this location does see some very fast-moving water, how is it that you constructed to avoid it being eroded? And is it deep that you have to cut to do that? Is it all concrete, or is it, are parts of it asphalt, or how does that work?
The trail is all concrete, and where we're in high flow areas, and especially the fast water that goes to the center of the channel, we do toe downs, and most of those, in the case of this trail, extend into the rock. So what we do is limit the water's ability to get under and lift the trail, and the toe downs then along each side also controlling the erosion not happening along the edge. So they work pretty well. That example that I showed, I said this trail could be, your should look just like this. That runs at about 14 feet a second through the water does on the creek. That has 2-foot toe downs. And it has not been maintained since it was put in. And you can tell there's no erosion on the trail at all. Very, very nice. In fact, it's revegetated to the concrete.
And so there wouldn't be any detriment to the fact that that channel probably would carry a lot of debris along with it as well, like trees and branches and things that, and I know that we then have to go back after a water event and clean it. Probably have to have something behind that gator to put all of the debris in. But, no, I sure hope we can get the whole thing, because I think it'd be a little frustrating to have a trail that only goes halfway and then you have to turn around and go back, instead of one that allows you to do a complete loop. So, thank you.
I just had one question. I'm glad to hear that the bridge is included in the Phase 1 part of the project. Is that, Walter, that bridge that you showed, the pedestrian bridge, is that the design concept that you're thinking about doing, or is that the one you're going to use?
There's two that we're looking at. One, probably the first one is the Port Kent Bridge, the one that looks like it's rusted.
Mhm.
That's one of the most affordable bridge systems you can get, and there's no maintenance on it. It just gets rustier.
Oh, that's metal? The handrails are metal?
Everything's metal on this particular one. This has a galvanized grating as the deck, so as you walk across that bridge, you can see all the way down where you're walking. It makes it kind of.
Oh, okay. Yeah, we went on a park and saw one like that. That was nice. When are you going to decide which concept?
Well, the other, and it's monetary, the other type of bridge that you can use is an all aluminum bridge, made by a different company, and they can be much, much less costly, and we're gonna have to weigh the cost of appearance and
That's all I had.
Any follow-up from EDC? Anybody?
I really am hoping that we can do the full add-on and get the loop on that northern end. It'd be really frustrating when you go up the creek, turn around and go back, so we have to shave off some of the cost on other parts of it, so we can finish that other part of the trail. We can do that. So I guess at this point, we keep our fingers crossed and hope we can go all the way.
We did have a meeting yesterday, and there are some things we've already cut out that will save some money, but it's not a substantial amount in proportion to the whole project, but it's a start. Any follow-ups, Cynthia?
Tell the property owners that I'll do a family history for them if they will help us with the easement. And I mean that.
How about mowing their lot every month?
I'll write the
Tree
story, you
maintenance?
can mow the lot.
Ed, any follow-up? No? Paul?
No, sir.
Alex? Okay, again, Walter, hey, I appreciate it. Are you gonna leave these things up for the duration of the meeting so people can look at it afterwards, or are you needing to head out of here? Okay. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay. Then we will go ahead and conclude this joint session. Drew, if you would, you can go ahead and adjourn your meeting and just state the time.
Meeting of the EDC, and City Council is adjourned at 7:40.
Okay, he didn't have a microphone, but they adjourned at 7:40.
Yes.
Okay, and then we'll go back into council. Are you guys wanting to stay for the rest of the meeting, or were you needing?
Understand the back,
Okay, because we can take a 5-minute recess if y'all want to leave or whatever.
that's, go back to the Betsy.
Okay, y'all staying? Okay.
See you next time.
We'll just sit tight for 5 minutes or so. Thanks again for coming. Okay, we'll go ahead and reconvene the council meeting, and we'll do so at 7:42. And next up on our agenda is citizens to be heard, and we have one person signed up to speak, Rich Whitehead. So Rich, if you would, come on up and state your name, address, and the fact that you were a formal council member, and then you have 3 minutes.
Oh, great, sounds
Thank you.
good. Rich Whitehead, 10606 Asheville, Nine Horse Canyon, former council member for 4 years. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Mayor, distinguished residents and citizens, I'm here as I remember when I was elected, and elected with you all and served as you all. The main priority that we had when we ran and took office was to replace a regime that had become government heavy, that had trampled upon property rights and had instituted moratoriums against business and made life generally difficult and unfriendly. And we set the task and did an admirable job of eliminating unnecessary levels of governments, eliminating fees, all the while maintaining no increases in property taxes. Life became happy and friendly once again. Often, when you're in the middle of everything, you can't really see the forest for all the trees. And having been off council for a number of years and sitting back, I've seen some changes develop over the years that have caused a little bit of concern. One of these things that I've seen started to take place even at the end of my tenure, where we seem to have seen a lot of increases in what I will call nickeling and diming the citizens. A little increase in fees here, a new addition of fees here. When you go back and total it, some increase of some over 4,000% increase in total fees that are since when I first showed up in the city of Helotes. This bothers me. While we maintain and should take pride in the fact we haven't increased property taxes, we are creating an environment that is becoming a little bit irritating as business owners and as citizens that are paying attention. This has resulted in, most recently, in a series of lawsuits by builders against the city in our attempt to increase fees or to be able to reach out and grab fees or institute fees, and to my understanding has resulted in judgments in the hundreds of thousands of dollars already, and my understanding upcoming as early as next month, maybe a significantly larger judgment in another lawsuit. I'm not here to argue the dollar amounts or whether the interest is going to continue to accumulate, which it is, or whether we can win in appeals or not. My question here is why? Why are we becoming a town that has decided to nickel and dime people together? Is it to protect not increasing our property taxes by a penny? I'd rather pay the penny and have no other miscellaneous fees than have to constantly go through a list of 500 things that I got to pay for and watch out, even a nickel or a dollar at a time. The nature of our town seems to be changing, and that's a concern. I'm here to make a plea to council to consider getting out of these lawsuits as soon as possible, cutting your losses and leave, and go back to basics. Let's not look for ways in how we can capture a couple more dollars, but maybe take a look. If our town has grown and we need some more fees and we need to increase property taxes, let's make it fee simple here. But in that process, let's also get back to basics. What Helotes was in the beginning, it was a safe place to be. Our police and our fire, I do not believe that they're being paid appropriate amounts. I fought for that while I was sitting on council, and I do not believe we have addressed that issue. Let's spend our money on our police and fire and not on lawsuits. Thank you.
Thank you, Rich. Okay, next up is our consent agenda. Tonight we have consent agenda items 5 through 8. And consent agenda is typically a clustering of items for expediency. Council has the option to ask questions or have an item pulled from the consent agenda for discussion, but typically we ask for a motion to approve the consent agenda items as they stand. So at this time I'll ask, are there any questions or requests from council members to pull a particular item? None?
I just have a question. Are
Okay.
these for the textile recycling services? Are the bins already up? Are we just renewing this, or is this something new?
No, we're just renewing
Yeah,
Okay.
it's the same one.
Okay, thank you. That's all I had.
Okay, no other questions or requests to pull, then I would ask for a motion and a second to approve consent agenda items 5 through 8.
Mayor, I make a motion, we approve consent agenda items 5 through 8.
We have a motion from Baez. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second from Villanueva. No discussion required. We'll vote on approving consent agenda items 5 through 8. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Motion carries. Consent agenda items 5 through 8 are approved. Takes us to item number 9, discussion and action on an ordinance authorizing the judge of the municipal court to assess a failure to appear fee and a violate promise to appear fee. And this was brought to us by our staff of municipal court. So I would ask for a motion and a second to discuss and take action.
Mayor, I make a motion, we discuss and take action on agenda item number 9.
I have a motion from Baez. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second from Fredericks. So a motion and a second to discuss and take action on 9. Bert, it's your motion, so you're up.
Well, I just assume this is what other cities are doing already, right? Is that why they brought it up to us?
Yes.
Other cities
And
have been doing it for some time.
For some
Yeah.
time, we just, our staff caught it. is
And
what-
it's a situation that, it occurs, and so it's just an incentive for people to go ahead and
Right,
show up when they're supposed to.
that's all I had.
So
Paul?
is everybody assessed this
No,
until,
This
and
is
then,
for people who don't show up for court and then we issue a warrant because of a failure to appear.
okay,
It's to help offset some of the costs of.
having to
all of
issue the warranty, okay,
Yeah.
okay, thank you.
Cynthia, anything?
Does this happen frequently?
Yes.
Really? Okay, that's it.
I
And we have a
believe
lot
we
of
have
outstanding
about-
warrants.
Well, Andrea, oh, she's left. We have about $200,000 worth of outstanding warrants.
It's ongoing.
Yeah.
Ed?
I think it's a great idea. We need to offset some costs, and the costs go into, and eventually if we have that much, there's only so much one warrant officer can do, and
Right.
we may have to get a second one or a part-timer. So we need to offset those costs somehow, some way.
Alex? Anyone else? Okay, if not, we'll call the question. On item number 9, all in favor of approving this item, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries. We'll go on to number 10. This is another municipal court issue. Discussion of and action on an ordinance amending municipal code of ordinance, chapter 70, solid waste. I guess this comes from staff. I was thinking this came from municipal court, didn't it? Yeah, it came from municipal court. So that being said, we'll ask for a motion in a second.
Mr. Mayor, make a motion that we discuss and take action on item 10 as written.
Have a motion from Fredericks. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Second from Buys. So Paul, your motion, you're first up on discussion.
I guess, how many times have we issued citations for illegal dumping? Does anybody have an idea?
Very infrequently. I mean,
It's hard to
essentially
catch
what this ordinance does is just take the cap from 2,000 to 4,000 to match the recent legislation that was passed at the state legislature level. But we do not issue many of these at all.
And it also doesn't mean that the fine will be 4,000. It gives the judge the latitude to make the decision up to that limit as allowed by statute.
That's all I had.
Okay, Bert? Cynthia? Anything?
Yeah, I would think it's hard to find these, the dumpers. They do in the middle of the night is the problem. The areas that I've seen this dumping, those, the little kiosks that we have, there's one in Old Town, and they always just say clothing and shoes.
Yes.
And one time I saw, furniture there, sofa, chairs, and table. I mean, I saw an entire living room there, basically. What happens when that happens?
The companies which is actually the ATRS, when they come out frequently and they will put all that stuff in their truck and they will recycle all of it. It says clothing and shoes, but they can actually recycle almost anything that has fabric with it. So they will pick that up, put it on their truck, and then they will take it to a recycling facility.
Okay.
And that's not uncommon, not only in Helotes, but other
I know.
areas.
Yeah, and we have 4 of those, so we don't have, they're not scattered throughout the entire city. One is here at City Hall, one is in Old Town, one is at Bobby J's Hamburgers, and one is at the shopping center across.
Right, yeah.
There's one at the disc golf course too.
Yeah.
And one's at the disc golf course.
Yeah, and I saw some guys over at Manders 2 weeks ago loading some stuff on a trailer from that.
Oh,
It was
really?
sofa and some other stuff. I don't know if that company had hired them or not,
Huh.
but,
They had trucks.
yeah.
They were just
They were
taking
scavengers.
stuff.
But I watched to make sure they weren't dumping,
Yeah.
but they
Right.
were loading, which I
Good,
thought
well,
was
good.
kind of strange. Okay, Ed, any comments on that?
No comments, thank you.
Alex? Okay. Paul, any follow-up?
No, sir.
Bert?
No, sir.
None? Okay. We'll call the question on item number 10. All in favor of approving item 10 as written, amending the municipal code, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries. Item 10 is approved. And by golly, we are finished with our agenda. So if there are no objections from council, we'll adjourn this meeting, and we will adjourn at 7:53. Thank you all for your rapt attention.